sound in all the world, Colin McKee thought, was of that of a set of bagpipes landing in a skip on top of an accordion. There was no accordion in this particular skip, but he could live with that. The pleasure of actually seeing the pipes landing, as well as hearing, was sufficient compensation. Oh yes. They made an awfully good sound as they hit the bricky's rubble, as if the tortured cat was finally expiring. Colin McKee sucked his teeth. Oh man, that's you finished then, he told the piper. He had nothing against the pipes, you understand, so long as they were not being played within earshot. Now, earshot is a hard thing to define. Why, from Arnydale Jetty it could be all the way to the mainland, across the Kyle. It could be as far away as the summit of Bennahoon, and that was a long way past the stone-flagged patio of Colin McKee's retirement bungalow. Dunronan looked out at an oblique angle to the slick dark tongue of the stone jetty, which protruded into the blue waters of Arnydale Bay, some half a mile away and 100 feet below. The patio, which he himself had hewn from the living rock, was the perfect place from which to contemplate that vista of peace and quiet that Colin felt he so richly deserved, and to reflect upon the life of crime that had enabled him to purchase it. Aye, and Cullen intended to reflect in tranquillity too, not with some sallow-faced scarecrow in a kilt of questionable authenticity caterwauling away every time the ferry boat came in and out. That was 10 times a day in summer, 20 in fact, with him playing it in and out, and always with the same bloody tunes. Heave bonny boat when it arrived, and will ye no come back again when it buggered off. He'd been coming to Arnydale for nigh on 30 years, and he'd never the merest skirl of a pipe to be heard before. The summer he bought Dunronan, this skinny jasper with an agonised windbag at his elbow had suddenly, without warning, appeared. One misty morning, Easter weekend it was, a strange wailing sound had come in through his open bedroom window. First he thought it must be a selkie singing out upon the skerries, and then perhaps a juggernaut reversing in want of some lubrication. Then he realised it was some fool down at the harbour playing the pipes. He looked out of his window and seen a solitary, motionless figure at the end of the jetty, like a Highland warrior on a war memorial. At first it was amusing, charming even. He assumed someone had laid it on for a special occasion. A silver wedding anniversary, a big old birthday, a once-in-a-lifetime visit to the old country. Well, there was no accounting for taste. The penny began to drop when the painful shrieking welcomed in the second boat of the morning. By mid-afternoon, Cullen was praying that it was only for the day. By the Sunday, he was hoping it was only for the bank holiday weekend. Tuesday morning brought the dreadful realisation that it was here to stay. By Wednesday afternoon, he knew that there would only be 2 tunes. Will Ye Know, at the letting go, for an up, and Heave Bonny Boat, at the making fast. Colin McKee was a reasonable man, as he would be the first to tell you. Indeed, had not they agreed that at the anger management sessions? But he knew when he was being made a monkey. Who's the gadget with a squish-it fart machine? He asked Hamish down at the sandwich bar by the jetty. You no fan of the pipes then? I can take 'em, I'll leave 'em. Think of a few places I'd take 'em. Think of a few places I'd leave 'em. Hamish rolled his eyes. Want a coffee? Cullen paused. Show the house. Ah, well then. They drank lattes morosely while the victim refused to talk for another session. Could be worse, Hamish said. How's that? Anyway, Baron plays the pipe. She was wishing she'd have thought to stand by the jetty. I'll be having it home at work then. Aye, that would be bad. Colin McKee conceded. Least he all silent for an hour when the boat goes out, Hamish said. Can you not pour something in his coffee? He'd not blow so hard with a good dose of laxative inside him. Hamish frowned. What if I could, but the bugger has his own flask? No. Aye. Insult to injury. Well, maybe have a word with him, Colin offered. You know, Budge, we've all tried. Ah, well, I tire of it, maybe. We tire all right, but no way included buggers are slipping £500 a day in this violent case. 500? Hamish held up a splayed hand. Aye. You'll not budge at that. Colin looked impressed. That would be 500 you'd have shared among yourselves. He nodded across to the other two shops. Aye, that's what we were thinking. But maybe we could put some pressure on, Colin suggested. Well, we've tried the council, Hamish said. They good? They're the ones giving the licence. There's nothing we can do. Colin McKee wasn't a man for doing nothing. He paused to reconsider his previous resolution about starting afresh and doing no harm to anyone. He thought maybe he'd have a word. He was standing with his hands in his pockets, looking down at the tyres, when the Piper came off the jetty as the last ferry slipped away over to the mainland. The evening sun was slanting down, throwing an orange light. What the fuck? The Piper said. Colin sucked his teeth. You'll be needing a foot pump. The two near-side tyres were flat-bottomed. Not a good design for driving on. Fuck! Fuck! The Piper said. Well, funny bunch round here. The Piper looked round. Closed signs were already up on the two shops. Hamish had pulled down the shutter over his southern hatch. Think I've worn him a shade, Colin told him. Would you like the bore of it? Thanks, I would. Colin McKee, he said, holding out his hand. Archie Wilson. You're wasting your time if they didn't take to you. I've seen it all before. Might as well pack up the news, battle on. You think so? I'll go get my foot pump. They walked back up to the bungalow. Resolutions? Well, mighty fine things, he thought. But there was reality, too. He found the foot pump and carried it down. The Piper, looking demoralised, leaned against the open boot of his car, smoking a cigarette. How did you know they weren't punctured? He asked. Kind of guessed, Colin said. They wouldn't have been punctured the first time. Piper never thought to ask him how he knew it was the first time. You'll maybe needing a foot pump, Colin McKee said, the second time. Fuck, 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 the Piper said. I not got two spares. Course I've not. What not? Didn't take it personally. I had 5 years of it before they let me in. 5 years? Well, was it 6? Well, better bloody freeze over before they drive me out. Colin McKee took a soft coffee at the sandwich bar, looked towards the jetty. A welcome silence had fallen. The Piper was explaining to a group of enthusiastic tourists the intricacies of his contraption. They spent half their cash by the time they get off the jetty, Hamish observed. He's charging £10 a head to have his photo taken with him. Could we not get it away from him? Colin asked. The head? No. The pipes. But then again, Colin thought, if no the pipes, nay. But then I can't know what more we can do. Have you tried the drink? It's a bonny sound drifting over the glen, Archie, Colin lied through his teeth. The Piper grimaced. They wouldn't know the cowl more from a worn bearing, he said. Colin smiled and looked into his case. 5 £10 notes, along with dollar bills of various denominations, were weighted down with pound coins and small change. It's always easier to scalp them if you don't like them, he said. The Piper laughed. Will you take a pint? Or a dram? Hamish and I are up for one. The ferry's wick was already dying against the black stones of the jetty. The Piper scooped the money into his purse and settled the cloth octopus in its case. Cullen gave him the smile that had clinched 1,000 dodgy deals. "You're going to stick it out and be one of us." Piper weighed up his options and set off down the wrong road, carrying his bagpipe case. Back at the sandwich bar, Hamish opened the till and drew out a £20 note. Morag caught his eye. "Where are you going with that?" "The pub." "Oh, are you indeed?" "Cullen and I are going to have a word with the piper." Hamish nodded towards the jetty. Morag's eyes glinted like a freshly sharpened claymore. "You'd best take two." "There'll be a pint?" "Aye, I'll bring them over." Cullen nodded towards the table by the fire. On sight him, his back to the bar. Then he got 3 pints in and a double whisky into one of them, making sure it was the one he had nipped between his forefingers as he carried them over to the table. "Sláinte!" The piper took a drink and looked surprised. "Sláinte!" Hamish said, and the piper took another drink. Cullen smiled. On the third round, which the piper bought, Cullen slipped in a third double while he was away for a jimmy. He made the fourth one a quickie, so he'd be back in time for the boat. The fifth they had anyway, seeing it was by then too late to get back to the jetty in time, and after that no one was counting, except Cullen. When they carried the piper out, he was babbling about his great-great-grandfather who had played on the field of Culloden. "I played on the waste ground at the back of Sauchiehall Street," Cullen said, as he slashed the bagpipe's back with the piper's skin hook. That was why, when he came to play it in the morning, it ended up in the skip. "Oh, man, that's you finished then," Cullen said. "Oh, I'll just put it through the insurance," the piper said. Now, that was a setback. That was an unexpected obstacle. Dunronin had not been cheap. Cullen McKee had not needed to look for somewhere cheap. That was because Cullen McKee was a man who would always overcome unexpected obstacles. He felt a little guilty about that. He'd planned to start afresh at Dunronin, but just this last time, he walked through the heather on the braes of Bennequin, the squealing of the stuck pig under the piper's arm fading as he climbed. At the summit he turned to face Armadale Bay. The ferry was almost at the jetty. The bonny boat was heaving. He could just make out the piper, solitary, motionless at the end of the jetty, so small he could obliterate him with his thumbnail. There were hairpin bends on the road across Bennequin. The piper lived on the other side of the island, and that was the road he took. The most dangerous of those bends was a sharp right-hander just beyond the watershed. If you came off the road just there, swerving, say, to avoid an unexpected obstacle in your path, you would without doubt plunge over the precipitous edge and fall into the dark, cold and unfathomably deep waters of Loch and Dhu. In those freezing waters, dazed, disoriented, trapped in your seatbelt, you would have little or no chance of survival. Cullen McKee knew several people in Glasgow who were in the business of providing unexpected obstacles and no questions asked. By the time the first ferry of the morning arrived, the midsummer sun was well up and blazing hot out of a clear blue sky. The birds were singing. Insects were buzzing in the flower border that fringed Cullen McKee's patio. The dull, friendly pulse of the marine diesel engine floated up from the jetty. No other sound impinged upon his contemplation of the first moderate whisky of the day. A momentary twinge of guilt assailed him, but no, the intrusion had been more than any reasonable man would stand, and Cullen McKee, he reassured himself, was a reasonable man. Besides, had he not got away with it before? A line of cars queued beside the loading ramp, their occupants enjoying coffee and croissants at Hamish's sandwich bar. Colin McKee let out a sigh of pleasure and lazily viewed the scene through his tripod-mounted telescope. Then, a car, speeding to the jetty, broke into his circle of vision and screeched to a halt. A young man in full Highland regalia jumped out, went to the rear of the vehicle, and from its hatchback unloaded something like a suitcase. From this he drew forth a gigantic dead spider, the bloated body of which he tucked beneath his arm. He put into his mouth one of the dangling legs. Then, with a deep blowing exhalation and a squeeze of elbow, he let out the plaintive cry of a cat in its terminal agonies. Bonny boo, it cried. If not the piper, then the boat must go, Colin McKee reasoned. He was a reasonable man, as he would have been the first to tell you, but a time for reason had passed. He dreamed at sea mines in the Sound, of Hamish and himself towing by moonlight the bulbous spiky casings out into the bay. No, not Hamish. Men like Hamish did not have the stomach for such things, but you could buy anything off the internet these days. Torpedoes would do. You're going to find mines. Down to drown. Then again, he reflected sadly, boats, like Piper's, would be replaced by other boats. He refilled his glass and pondered, not in tranquillity. If not the boat, the passengers. If they could be put off from visiting. Of course, not far from his own nest. It was from the far shore they must be deterred. He conjured famine, pestilence, disease, while the piper played on, heaving his bonny boat, whether ye came back or no. He saw 4 horsemen, their steeds borne up on surfboards, a chariot wheeled with floats, thundering apocalyptically across the waves towards him. Down at the jetty, Hamish sniffed disconsolately at the pungent aroma of fresh brewed coffee, and heard without enthusiasm the jingle of small change in his till. It was sad, he thought, about poor Archie Wilson's wee accident. It was sad, too, about the new boy showing up like that. Even Colin McKee, he thought, seemed to have given up the struggle. But something that Morag had said about the takings being down, on account of the small change being siphoned off into the piper's collection box, would not go out of his head. If it gets any worse, we'll have to think about the future of the business. That was it, of course. The money. If the piper was not making the money, he could not stand the pitch. But how could you turn off the flow of money? The piper had fallen silent. The boat was a diminishing shape upon the calm water. Colin McKee drowsed, whisky-sodden, bereft of reason and remorse, like a turn tide flowed in. He stirred himself and peered through the telescope. Would not focus. The boat was nearly across, but it would return. In less than an hour, the caterwauling would recommence. He took another dram, and then hallucination. The faint sound of the pipes floated across the water from far away. Could it be the ghost of Archie Wilson come to haunt him? He took another dram, shook his head, but the wailing, distant but distinct, was still there. Aye, he told himself, he crossed the line once too often. This was his reward. A guilty tear ran down Colin McKee's cheek. He rose to his feet, staggered across the patio, took one last look at the peaceful panorama of Armadale Bay, and took himself inside to his room, where he shut the window, pulled down the blinds, turned off the light, and crawled into bed, and pulled the covers up over his head, and was never seen again, seen in Armadale by man, not beast, Who knows whether or no, in the dark reaches of the night, he still hears the awful cry of the pipes. Down at the jetty, Hamish had cheered up. He packed off his daughter on the rib across the tile in time for the first embarkation of the day, with a flask of Kenyan and a seafood wrap heavy on the mayonnaise, and her pipes in their case. The sound of her playing drifted lazily across for the far shore. It was obvious. They wouldn't pay to hear it twice, especially being the same twat tunes. A week or two should do it. After that, well, the extra few quid would come in handy too. And for that distance, he had to admit, it wasn't so bad. Though it wasn't the sweetest sound.